Hello and welcome to another Miss Alley Cat DIY video. Today I have this super cute mason jar lemon decor sign to show you all. This was so much fun to make, so please stay tuned for this DIY. Grab your mason jar filled with your own lemonade and let's get on into this DIY. So for this DIY, you're going to need a mason jar sweet summertime sign, and I got this one because of the lemon on it, and this is of course from Dollar Tree. You will also need this flour sack towel from Dollar Tree, but everything will be listed in the description box below that you need. So I'm beginning by just taking an object. This is just a screwdriver from Dollar Tree. I like to use these for projects like that I don't want to hurt my actual screwdriver, and I just kind of pried off that orange. And to be careful, I accidentally ripped off some of the paper that I did not want to rip off, so I just glued that back, and I don't even think you can tell when the project was completely done. So, anywho, that is the first thing that I did. Now taking an X-Acto knife or like a razor blade, I'm just scoring the inside of our mason jar because I want to keep the rim, that light blue color, all the way around our mason jar, but we are going to be removing the inside, like the yellow of the mason jar where it says Sweet Summertime. So I'm just scoring that rim just so that we can easily remove the inside without harming our rim of our mason jar. I hope that makes sense, but you can see what I'm doing in the video. And this just, like I said, helps so that you can remove the inside of the mason jar's image, and we can put our own customized image there. Alright, so now to take off the inside image, I simply just took my razor blade and sometimes my screwdriver and just kind of went underneath the image, and it peeled off very easily. I was quite surprised but happy that it did peel off pretty darn easily. And yeah, I just did that for the whole inside of that image, and when I got to the inside rim of our mason jar where we scored it, I just took it slow when I was peeling off the image, and it did come off very nicely because we did score it. It was actually pretty darn therapeutic because it came off with such a nice line. So that was really great, and I did that for the whole inside of our mason jar, so the inside was completely blank. Once the inside image was pretty much all the way off of there, I did have a couple spots that were very stubborn and didn't want to peel off, so I went in with some pretty rough sandpaper just to make sure that the image was completely off of there. And I also wanted the whole surface to be nice and smooth. I didn't want any bumps or anything, so I did go over that whole inside of that sign just to make sure everything was nice and smooth and no image was in the center of our sign. Next, all I did was I took this flour sack towel from Dollar Tree that has the recipe for lemonade on it. I folded it in half, and now I'm just simply cutting the whole thing in half. My scissors did not want to do a very good job, so my edge, my line, my cut ended up very jagged. So just anywho, if yours ends up not perfect, just like mine, it's okay because you won't even see it in the end when we're all done with the project. Now taking that flour sack towel that we just cut in half, I'm using the side that has the lemonade recipe on it. Now what I did was I took our sign and I put it underneath the towel so that the lemonade recipe was as centered as I could get it. Now I noticed that the image itself is not completely straight and it's not completely centered even on the towel, so I did my best to get it centered on the sign. And now all I'm doing is with a pencil, I'm tracing out the size of the mason jar minus the lid and minus the handle, and I'm doing it a bigger size than I actually need it, just in case. Because the flour sack towel is so see-through, this was pretty easy to do. Now taking my scissors, I'm just going to cut out that shape that we just traced. I took this very slowly, and like I said before, my scissors were not doing a very good job, so that's another reason why I made the shape bigger than I actually needed it. So now once again, with our flour sack towel centered on the sign, I centered the lemonade recipe as best I could, just like before, except now I am going to trace out the inside of the mason jar a little bit more. I am just tracing exactly where we scored it before when we took out the other image that was on the sign originally, because that's exactly where the lemonade recipe is going to go this time. So here I am cutting the image a little bit smaller. Once again, I took this slowly because my scissors did not want to do a smooth job. If you accidentally cut a little bit too much off like me, as you can see, that's what I did, but it really didn't make that much of a difference. It was totally fine, so don't worry about it because we're also going to put a rim of twine around the whole entire center. So now I'm taking some glue and I'm just putting glue over the whole inside of our mason jar sign, and I'm going to center our recipe as best I can, and I just glued the recipe to the sign and smoothed it out so there weren't any bumps. And yeah, so that is this step, and let me show you what I did next. With my hot glue gun on and heating up, now I'm taking a Sharpie and a straight object, and my goal is to make the straw look exactly or as close to the straw on the recipe as I possibly can. So I just did an angle and drew a line with my Sharpie. And now I'm simply going to fill that in and making sure not to get the inside of the straw. About this time, my hot glue gun was all heated up. So now I'm taking this twine. This twine is from Dollar Tree, but you can use any twine you want. I am just going to work in sections and using a very small amount of hot glue because I don't want to be able to see the hot glue. I'm just taking it in sections and gluing the twine all the way around the center of our mason jar or the outside of the lemonade recipe. If you accidentally cut the towel even smaller than I did, you can always go around with the twine as many times as you need. I'm only going around once, but like I said, you could go around again and then it would still look super cute and no one would ever know that you cut it too small. And then just when I reached the end, I just trimmed off the twine as close to the other end as I possibly could and just glued it down. Next, I'm going to be using this acrylic white paint. This is just the paint I have on hand, and somehow I lost the footage of me doing this the first time. This is my second coat, but I initially took 2 pieces of tape and put them both on an angle. One on an angle over like the top portion of the straw where it's black, and another one on an angle on the pink. And then I filled that part in with white, and I did have to do this for about 2 or 3 coats until I had enough paint that I was happy with. Once the paint was completely dried, and I did do, like I said, 2 or 3 coats, I then very carefully peeled off the tape. Continuing the straw, I'm taking a piece of tape on an angle once again, and doing it like I would say about a half an inch from the white, and now I'm going to take another piece of tape, and I'm going to make sure that there is a very teeny tiny sliver of pink, just the same way that there is on the picture where the recipe is, because I really want it to match as much as possible. Now taking my black Sharpie, I'm once again going to fill that little square in with the black Sharpie. And then before peeling off the tape, I did let the Sharpie dry for about a minute or two, just in case. Then once again, I took some more tape and I taped it at an angle over the black on the straw, and then I also took another piece of tape, also at an angle, and about 1/4 of an inch from that tape, put this tape at an angle. It was a little tricky just because of the half of a lemon right there, but I used my fingernail to make sure that it was nice and flat. Then I went back in and painted that little section, and this needed a couple 2 or 3 coats, just like the other section of white that I did before. Okay, so this is completely optional, but I thought it would be kind of pretty, and it is a little hard to see on the video. I apologize, but I did take a Sharpie, and I'm just doing a pretty thin line around the bottom portion of the mason jar, trying to kind of match the way the glass looks on the picture, on the recipe picture that we have in the center of our mason jar. Now I'm going to go in with this acrylic paint that is called Ultra Blue. This is also just what I had on hand. It's just this really vibrant blue color. So now taking that dark blue, I'm starting on the handle just because I want the handle to be a little bit darker of a shade of blue than the rest of the project. And I'm only painting on like the shadows of the mason jar. If you look at the mason jar, you can tell that there is definitely a darker color, not real dark, but it is darker than everything else, which is white, and that is where we are painting. Now I'm going in with this lighter color. To get this color, I just mixed some of that blue with quite a bit of white, and I am continuing to paint only on the darker shades of the sign, so like where the shadows would be. And here I am going up and around the mason jar. And while my handle was still wet, the paint had not dried, I went back in with that lighter color just to kind of blend the whole thing together. That way it wasn't like a stark change from one color to the next. It was nice and blended. And then I went up to the lid of the mason jar and just began to fill in the darker shades, the shadows of the lid. And I continued this until the whole lid was painted. Well, the shadows were painted, not where it is already white, as you can see in the video. I did go back and blend the handle a couple times, just until I was happy with how it looked. So going back to the straw, I decided to add one more layer to my straw, so I just taped it off the same way that we did before, and I'm just filling it in with my Sharpie. And of course I let that dry for a minute or two before removing the tape. So this is how my mason jar sign turned out. I absolutely love how farmhouse it is. I love lemon decor, and this is my first time making something that is lemon decor, so super excited about that. Thank you so much for watching this DIY. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please feel free to pounce on that like button and hit subscribe. It really truly does mean so much. I hope you all are having a wonderfully perfect day, and if you want to see more like this from me, feel free to click on that notification bell to be notified every single time that I upload a new video. With that being said, this is Miss Alley Cat DIY signing off. Until next time, bye bye!